This is Sarah, Painty Creator, and I'm back with you to look at some more skies. So for this one I've got a horizon line here which is roughly 5.5 centimetres up. It's quite important because this is going to be sea. That water line is always horizontal. Just got some rough mountains, but the main bit that we're going to look at today is for our sky. So I'm going to start off just wetting, whoops a daisy, I've got a dirty paintbrush, let's try again. Wetting the sky area with some clean water. Not bothered about going into the top of these hills. That will be fine, we can work with that. And I'm going to so I've just picked up some ultramarine blue. I'm going to mix it in with some cerulean blue. Quite like those two mixed together. So a fair amount of water, it's moving, I've got water on my page, and I'm just going to do a nice wash. On page, wash my brush, and then I'm just going to go up from the bottom, meet that stroke and come down. And because I'm working on an angle, my sky will then be a graduated wash because it's lighter at the bottom and darker at the top. If I wanted to darken that top off with some darker, thicker mixture, I can whilst it's wet, but once it's dried you have to let it dry. There we are, I've gone all the way down my page. So you've got to work quite quickly when you are working with skies, because once it's started drying there's not a lot you can do. Whilst it's wet we're fine, and it is quite a warm day today, and I've got my fan on, and actually I'll try and just sort of turn my fan off because that must be quite annoying. So I've just got my flat brush, I've washed it and taken most of the water out of it, just checking it's clean. So I've taken use my paper towel, and I'm just going to pick up some clouds out of this. The flat brush is a really good brush for doing this because it's quite stiff and it allows you to do some nice directional clouds. You have to be careful not to scrub the paper, otherwise you'll end up with the surface being uneven, but it's a nice way of just lifting a little bit of a cloud, sort of steady texture. I'm just going to make these a little bit larger at the top and lift off a bit with a paper towel, and just gentle small ones across the bottom. Remember that your clouds are aiming at telling part of the story. So whilst this is still damp, and we can still spritz it with a little spritz of bottle, keeping it workable for us, I'm going to put in some burnt sienna, a little bit of ultramarine blue, together, and I'm still using my flat brush And I'm just going to now add a little bit of red light. So we're going to build the depth and tone under these. That's quite dark. So I'm building some tone at the base of these clouds. And they will dry lighter. Don't panic about it. They will dry lighter. And into this mix that I've got, I'm going to add a little bit of alizarin crimson. A little bit more water. So important that I take the excess off of my paper towel. And I'm just going to go into this cloud. So when you look at skies, and you will start looking a little bit more at skies, you will see that the clouds at the top of the sky tend to be more pronounced. They tend to be darker in tone, and the clouds nearer the horizon line are lighter and less pronounced because they have a bit more distance within that. So it's all around controlling the water that's on your that's on your brush. I'm just going to go in with a little bit of my mop brush now, with a bit more water in there, just to add a little bit of shape to some of these clouds. I like my mop brush, but you must be careful because this is a drying wash now, not to go in with too much water. If you go in with too much water, it will then spread and you will end up with a massive cauliflower on it. If you are wanting to keep working, you need to keep it damp, and you need your brush to be damp. So if I wash my brush, I take the excess out on my paper towel and touch it so that I can feel that it's just damp, and that allows me to go in and lift out some of the tone if I want to. But once it's drying, you need to leave it. I could have added a little bit of yellow ochre into here, but I'm wanting that warm tone, which is why I put the alizarin crimson and the burnt sienna light red in to the blue. But I'm using the same blue that's the base of my sky, because actually that's where the clouds are getting their colour from, is from the sky itself. So I'm going to let that dry and then I'll come back to you. Okay, so I'm back and it's dry, and as you can see, it's dried a little bit lighter. I have used my hairdryer on this one, so I'm just checking and reattaching the masking tape, because sometimes it does come loose, and as you can see, you've got some really nice high cloud definition here, and those soft edges work nicely, and the brightness coming through those clouds, and that light coming to the top of what will be the sea is really nice. I've forgotten to say that if you are enjoying my little tutorials, please like and subscribe and share with your friends. We also run a free at the point of watching Zoom, and we do ask for coffee donations on that, but if you can't afford them, that's fine. You're more than welcome to come along and join with us every couple of weeks to paint together as a group. If you'd like more information on that, just drop me a message with your email address in and I will get back to you. I'm using this Creative Peak watercolour paper, half of it on this size, A5. I find it a really useful pad. It's good quality for its price. I can't afford to be running on Archie's watercolour paper all day, every day. And I paint nearly every day, and it's really important for my mental health. So I found that this Creative Peak is a really good resource. At the moment it's on offer on Amazon and works out about 25p a sheet, which is brilliant. I use a range of brushes, from the cheapest from a sort of the Works or any sort of shop, to my medium mop brushes, and the main paints that I use are Cotman watercolour paints. Again, great value for the pigment and the versatility for the price, because we're not all made of money. So let's get back to our painting. We've got a beautiful sort of sky. To me, this is either as evenings coming on or as mornings coming through. So I want to start with just putting some distant hills in. So for that, I'm going to use cerulean blue, and I'm going to add a little bit of red light into there. And maybe the tiniest hint of a purple, and then it can be a distant bluey purpley colour. There we go. So I've made a bluey purpley colour, very light. I'm going to control it on my paper towel, and I'm just going to paint in some distant hills. Take the excess off on. I'm just going to soften that into what will be the sea. Whilst that's damp, I'm just going to drop in a little bit of yellow for a little bit of information. Nothing, something yellow ochre that was, sorry. And then in this background, I'm just going to paint another, again using this red light. Just wet my brush now. I'm just going to drag some distant hills there. So we've got two sets of hills. We've got distant hills. So I'm going to build a bit more of a information on here. So I want a bit of a thicker colour and a bit brighter. So I'm sticking with the blue and the red light, but a little bit thicker, more pigment. So that's still cerulean blue. Red light makes like a grey purpley colour. I'm just going to add a little bit of purple into there. A bit of a heather colour, as it's pulling on this sky then. I'm just going to add some yellow ochre in. So that's wet my brush, soften this edge. So that's a medium, middle-sized sort of hill. We've got 3 hills so far. I'm just going to go for a little bit of sap green into this mix. Because it's quite a dull mix, it'll mix in nicely and cool it down a little bit. I don't want it to shout too much because I want this darkness of the day. A little bit of yellow ochre into the mix. Going to add a little bit of blue for a bit of a shadow. So I've kept this really simple because they are quite distant. I like that sort of contrast of the purples going backwards. I might add a little bit of purple just into here for a little bit of harmony. Okay, so I'm going to go with some cerulean blue again and a little bit of turquoise. A touch of red light will make that more of a sea colour. Just darkens it down a little bit. And I'm going to be really trying to be really quite careful to get this horizontally as much as possible. And then I'm just going to work so again, seas tend to be darker at the back. I'm just adding a little bit of Hooker's green light into this mix. A daisy. I need to make that horizontal. There we go. I'm just going to add a bit of a beachy area, so I'm just going to use a really watery raw umber into the base of the waves. Plenty of clean water on my brush. I'm just going to drop in now some of this blue into the wash coming forward. And there you have a really simple sand beach scene with a really nice practice for your skies. So hopefully that's been informative for you and a bit of fun, and we'll see you soon.